Chilsen. Childcare is available with Lily. We are glad to have Eric Moraine as our guest speaker. Roshi Eric Moraine. There is a bio describing Eric and his background and skills that came with this morning's service announcement. This morning's service is on, and next Sunday's morning service is also on. It will be about Black Lives Matter to Wisconsin UUs, and it will have a speaker change you will get announced during the week. And our AV tech, who never gets mentioned in this introduction, is Aaron Hurwitz, who we wouldn't have this happening without. It's great to see all of you today. I will extend a special welcome to any visitors, guests. I hope you will all join us after the service for coffee and conversation, which we are having at this point in the building downstairs. Masks optional. We are not trying to do outdoor dodge the raindrops coffee. I wasn't sent announcements other than the Black Lives Matter service is still happening, and I would now ask you to center yourself for worship. Our call to worship is excerpt from writings by Thich Nhat Hanh in a book called Teachings on Love, in a chapter called Sangha/Community. Sangha building is the most important art for us to learn. Each of us needs a Sangha. If we don't have a good Sangha yet, we should spend our time and energy building one. To build a Sangha, begin by finding one friend who would like to join you in sitting or walking meditation, precept recitation, tea meditation, or a discussion. Eventually, others will ask to join, and your small group can meet weekly or monthly at someone's home. Some Sanghas even find land and move to the countryside to start a retreat center. Of course, your Sangha also includes the trees, the birds, the meditation cushion, the bell, and even the air you breathe. All of the things that support you in practice. It is a rare opportunity to be with people who practice deeply together. The Sangha is a gem. The principle is to organize in the way that is most enjoyable for everyone. You will never find a perfect Sangha. An imperfect Sangha is good enough. Rather than complain too much about your Sangha, do your best to transform yourself into a good element of the Sangha. Accept the Sangha and build on it. Now, if you will join me in the chalice lighting. Each Sunday, we light our flaming chalice, a symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith. These words are on the wall. May this flame kindle within us the warmth of compassion, the glow of love, the fire of commitment, and the light of truth. Here together, we scatter and nurture seeds of spirit, service, and community. And then, if you will join me in our opening hymn, that is number 360, and those words will be on the wall.
Here we have gathered, gathered side by side, circle of worship, come and step inside. May all see here by the
That's okay. This is the time in our service where we were planning the time for all ages. You all look between 9 months and 90 years-ish to me.
So I'll make it a little shorter and say that, so I'm going to talk about community today, right, and how we are in relationship with each other and with larger groups of people, and just mention that the patterns that you use today as adults were set in place at some point between 6 and 18 months of age for you. And that was by your relationship with your primary caregivers. And once you learned how to be in relationship with them, how to get their attention, how to get your needs met by them, mother, father, whoever it is, that pattern of how to act and interact has been what you've been using for your entire life. There's a whole kind of branch of psychology now that works with that called attachment style. And attachment style therapy helps you to become aware of it and to shift it if you don't care for the consequences of the way you're interacting today. So you will always be a product of that, but you don't necessarily have to be a prisoner of it. But recognize this started like when you were 6 months old. That's the story for all ages. It's me again.
It's still you.
It's me again. So, it's time to do a little bit of centering and collection. Meditation is often assumed that it's something you do. We're going to sit down, we're going to empty our minds, we're going to think good thoughts, and I'm going to really work hard to do it. So I'd like to offer another idea. It is an opportunity to arrive in the moment, into this moment. I don't know what you've been doing this morning, but I've been getting ready for this moment. So now a part of me is busy reviewing what's going to happen in the next 10 minutes. How's my sermon going to go? Will Patti get mad at me and shush me off? Right? What I'm inviting is arrive in this very moment, this instant, right here and right now. And the way to do that is to sit comfortably in your seat, eyes open or eyes closed, doesn't really matter. And be aware of your surroundings. Notice what you're seeing. Notice what you're hearing. Notice how the chair feels against your back. Notice how the floor feels under your feet. Notice if there's a thought in your head or a feeling in your heart. None of these things need to be changed. There's no judgment that needs to be passed about good or bad, the right time or the wrong time. It's only about noticing. In this moment is when you live your life. Be present to that for just a minute. Thank you. And now we'll move into part 2 of this morning's meditation. sometimes people have a hard time sitting and just being with their thoughts or with their feelings, and so there is an object of attention that is often presented as a way of focusing to try to make it a little easier to stay present. And one of the most common ones is your breath.
We have a lovely and long thing that was written for our offertory that I'm not going to read here this morning. I'm actually going to check amongst you who might remember what we used to say during the offertory chorally. So I'm just putting that in your head. And now I turn the page because we're going to save it for after joys and concerns. In addition to our gifts each week, we build our sense of community by sharing milestones in our individual lives. And that's what's supposed to be there. Those joys and sorrows that make up who we are. If you have something to share, you will come forward to this microphone. Tell us your name and what's on your mind. Take a stone from the bowl as you do so. When you are finished, place the stone in the bowl of water. Let the ripples carry your concerns to the wider community. And masks have been made optional for that. It is simpler for people to understand you if you do take the mask at least down.
I'm sorry. Hi, I'm Adele. I have joy Last week, I participated in the Senior Olympics for Wisconsin in the free throw contest, the basketball free throw. I did a horrible job, but I still may have won because I'm the only person in my age group. So I'm really hoping I didn't, because that means I'd have to go to nationals and represent the state as a horrible free thrower. And I'm really hoping I didn't do it. But I went, it was great. I fought through a bunch of anxiety to make it there, so it was a lot of fun. So that was my joy.
I'm Paul, and yesterday I celebrated my birthday with my son and daughter-in-law, and they gave me my two favorite gifts, chocolate-covered almonds and spicy mixed nuts.
Hello, I'm Kim Aplikchi, and I have a joy today to share. My son just turned 15 this last week, and he's had a really rough year. The isolation of the 2 years of the pandemic. We had to take him into Rogers, and I mean, he's doing great now, but there was a time when he was telling us he didn't want to live. And I mean, it's scary when your son is telling you he doesn't know if he's going to make it to the next day. So I am so grateful that, you know, I kept trying to figure out a solution that would work, and he's doing much better now. So thank you.
People continue to ask me why I would still want to be a school psychologist instead of retired. That. I will now place one last stone in the bowl for the joys and concerns that have remained unspoken, and we will let the ripples carry those things to our hearts and minds and beyond.
Walking with you is our prayer.
So the old words for the offertory went something close to this. And I kept thinking of them because community and Sangha were the title for today. This church is the community of ourselves. Its energy and resources are our energy and resources. Its gifts are what we share. By contributing to the life of this community, we affirm it and enable its participation in the larger world around us. And I might have gotten a word or two right, but so we know we could easily submit those pledge checks to the church at any convenient time. We will now pass a plate and do that here on Sunday morning. Thank you for the gifts that you contribute to our community, and you, and you. This reading was an excerpt and summary of the book Long Life, Honey in the Heart, written by Martine Prechtel and shared with me by Eric Moraine. In the 1970s, Martine Prechtel, I want to do that, there, a native New Mexico author, traveled throughout Central America, eventually settling in a small Guatemalan village on the shores of Lake Atitlán. There, he apprenticed with the local shaman, got married, and had 2 lovely children. He enjoyed his life as a member of the village. In time, when the shaman passed away, Martine took over his role as spiritual leader. One of the most important tasks he became responsible for was the rite of passage into adulthood for the adolescents. This was a year-long process which involved education as well as tests and trials of the youth. It culminated with ritual that symbolically ended the lives of the children and allowed them to reemerge as adults. These former children were transformed into adults ready to accept their rights and responsibilities as adult community members. This rite of passage was the most important event in their lives. It was a very challenging process, both for the kids as well as Martine, who was responsible for it all, and he took his responsibility seriously. The year's events went mostly according to plan until it was time for the final 4-day-long ritual. This involved a lot of ceremony, celebration, and many instances of burning copal, the local incense, to sanctify the process. Martine, unfortunately, had already spent all his savings on the year-long events leading up to that final ritual. By his estimation, he would need roughly 50 pounds of copal to finish the process, and he didn't have nearly enough, and he was out of cash and out of ideas. The hour was late. It was long past sunset. It was time to begin preparing the next morning's events, and he did not have the copal he needed to make it happen. He was the spiritual head of the village and had let them down. The rite of passage would not be completed. The villagers had entrusted him with their most precious possession, their children, and he had failed them. These kids were not going to become adults. In desperation, he asked for an audience with the elders. When he was brought into the elder hut and stood by the fire, he told them how he had failed them as their shaman, that he did not have the copal needed to complete the process, that the year's effort was in vain. He apologized for letting them down. He apologized for failing the adolescents. He apologized for having failed the village. The elders listened quietly, then asked him to wait by the fire as they withdrew into the dark corners of the hut to talk. Martine could hear murmured conversation and saw a vague movement in the darkness. Eventually, the movement stopped, and it was very quiet. The elders slowly drifted back to the light around the fire. With a somber voice, someone spoke out, and said, "We were surprised you lasted as long as you did." And with that, they unwrapped various bundles which they'd pulled out of hiding from the corners of the hut to reveal large armloads of copal. Knowing what might happen, they'd been collecting it all year, saving it for when it was needed. Martine was shocked, humbled, and accepted what they'd offered him, the means necessary to complete this most essential task of creating adults out of children. That was the moment when Martine changed from being a member of the village to becoming a member of the community. That night, he learned firsthand that sometimes you give help and sometimes you get help. This is what it means to be part of a community, not just live in the village. To be a community member, you must share your life with those around you as they share their lives with you. You are more than interconnected. You become interdependent. So to read more about Martin and his time in Guatemala, you would please look for the book Long Life Honey in the Heart, written by Martin Prechtel. And to know more about the idea of the Sangha as essential, we will hear from Eric.
Thanks for that reading, Patti. You got to me. And I doubt anyone will disagree with the statement that community is a good thing. The story we just heard about Martin Prechtel and his shift away from going it alone as a village member to sharing the burden as a community member. Well, what a nice story, and what a lovely ending. And this is also a very nice community. It's not an indigenous community in Guatemala along the shores of a beautiful lake. But this is still really pretty nice. And it's held together by shared interests and principles. In this case, the principles that hold us together are the UU principles, right? The inherent worth and dignity, justice, equality, and compassion, acceptance of one another, encouragement to spiritual growth, a free and responsible search for truth, the right of conscience and the use of the democratic process within our congregations and society at large, the goal of world community with peace, liberty, justice for all, respect for the interdependent web. And with these principles supporting us, we look out into the world and we see what? What is it that's happening to us? Well, to start with, we're being fed a media diet of FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt, in the hope that we might react, withdraw, and isolate into our look like me, talk like me, live like me shells of cultural isolation and insulation. We're gathering into small clots of social conformity and uniformity. And we're becoming used to that isolation inside our personal information bubbles, which are designed to feed us more of what we want to hear, fueled by fear, uncertainty, and doubt, in the hope that we keep our distance from each other. We keep our distance from others who don't think like us. The only way to avoid the collapse of civilization as we know it, or so I'm told by Fox News, and also in MSNBC, is to send money and votes to the good guys. We, of course, are them, the good guys. We are slowly given increasingly larger, louder diets of extreme sound bites by those who claim to be on our side, delivering heaping helpings of horribleness about the other side, hoping that we become outraged by that utterly insane, ignorant, vile spewing that's coming from them. We're gradually being enticed into believing the others want to end life as we know it. Conveniently, the powers that be have found ways to make the others more recognizable. I mean, you wouldn't want to be angry at the wrong faction, now would you? Is it the Proud Boys or Antifa that's causing the trouble? Thankfully, for the most part, we foot soldiers have been clearly marked for easier identification. The good guys wear blue hats, the bad guys wear red ones. The good guys drive Prius with a Whole Foods bumper sticker, and the bad guys drive lifted 4x4s sporting an NRA sticker. Good folks listen to NPR and read the New York Times. Bad folks listen to Fox News and get InfoWars website updates pushed to their laptops every morning. The good guys wear a 9-stripe rakusu with a little triangle sewn on the back. The bad guys They have a 7-stripe rakusu. We don't talk to them. And they don't have a triangle. They have a little pine branch with 3 needles on the back. So it's good to be able to tell us apart. Part of what goes along with this factionalizing, this tribalizing, is learning to be frightened by the others, hopefully disgusted by what they say and do, and without question, driven by fear to avoid them at all cost. Like not talking to them at the gas station, at work, at the gym, or the family Thanksgiving dinner. Because you and I both know it would be pointless to try. I mean, really, they know they're right. They'll never change. What's the use? Why bother? Wait a minute. Which side am I talking about? Never mind. It doesn't matter. Sadly, that's actually the truth of it. This closed-mindedness about the other is a key characteristic of the death spiral we are in. So, we've become factionalized and tribalized and compartmentalized. We've become a nation divided, gradually conditioned to allowing the ones with the microphones and the newscasts and in Congress to tear at the very fabric which binds our lives together. We risk our society being torn apart by these special interests who really have their own personal special interests at heart. Greed, anger, and ignorance are driving the bus these days, and anger sits behind the steering wheel. So all this closed-minded, fear-driven, reactionary thinking, this disgust of others, what has it gotten us? Well, for starters, it's gotten us road rage. 10 years ago, there was no word for it, and now it's common and people barely blink an eye when they see it. It's brought us atmospheric CO2, which has historically been between 170 and about 300 parts per million for about 1 million years. And today it stands at a record-breaking 412 parts per million. Congratulations. And it's climbing more every day. And by the way, more congratulations, well, to all of us in the good old US of A, because we've set yet another record. Gun violence is now the leading cause of death in Americans 19 and under. Think about that for a second. And at the same time, a woman's right to choose what she does with her body was taken away by 4 men and a woman who lied to us about honoring settled law. Life expectancy in the U.S. peaked 8 years ago. Insulin prices have tripled roughly during that same time period. And then there was January 6th. These issues, these problems, are so big and so numerous. What is a decent, caring person to do? The situation requires solutions, but they're big problems. It requires really big solutions and lots of them. And I am tiny, only one small person with just a few dollars in his pocket. Not enough of anything to make a real change in any of this stuff. The best any of us could hope for in the face of such an onslaught is to find someone else to commiserate with. At least we can huddle together and maybe hold each other tight and slowly watch the lights go out on everything that we hold dear. And where does that leave us? I mean, if we keep doing this, if we keep listening to the shrieking voices saying, be afraid, be very afraid, don't talk to them. They're bad. You're good. Vote for me, send me money, do it my way, give me power, it'll all be okay. That leaves us mostly in the dark, with no way out and no end in sight. So a rabbi once asked his students, how do we know the difference between night and day, between dark and light? There are, after all, prayers and rituals that can only be done at night and others only during the day. Sabbath starts at sundown, not 1 minute late. It's very important to know when night starts and when it ends. As good observant Jews, how can we tell? What do we look for? What's the sign? So the first rabbi said, the first student said to the rabbi, well, when I look out at the fields and I can distinguish between my field and the field of my neighbor, that's when night ends and day begins. A second student then suggested, well, Rabbi, when there's enough light that even at a good distance I can look at a house and I can tell if it's my house or my neighbor's house, that's when the night has ended. A third student said, Rabbi, when I see an animal in the distance and I can see whether it's a cow or a horse or a sheep, that's when night is done and day has begun. A fourth student chimed in, offered yet another answer. When I see a flower and I can make out the colors of the flower, when I can tell whether it's red or yellow or blue, that's when night has ended. And each answer brought more frustration and a sadder expression to the rabbi's face until finally he shouted, "Stop! No, none of you understand. You don't get it. You only divide. You divide your house from your neighbor's house, your field from your neighbor's field. You distinguish one kind of animal from another. You separate one color from the others. Is that all you can do? Is that all we can do? Divide, separate, split the world into tiny pieces? Isn't the world broken enough already? Isn't the world split into enough fragments already? My dear students, this is not the way. So then finally, one of them, instead of offering answers, decided to ask a question and said in a humble voice, well, Rabbi, please tell us, how do we know that night has ended and day has begun? And so the rabbi responded, and he said, when you look in the face of the person who's beside you, and you can see that person is your brother or sister, then finally the night has ended and day has begun. To end the night, to end this nightmare, to end global warming, to repair our dysfunctional political system, to stop homelessness and eliminate gun violence, to stop famine, we must stop dividing. We must stop separating and splintering our world. We must find a way to start uniting. We must join together. We must get to know the other as a sister or brother. We must become community. Community welcomes in the ones who don't look or sound just like me, the ones who don't drive my kind of car or wear their hair my way, the ones who don't speak my language or eat my food. We must learn to welcome the other into our midst. Perhaps the best way to stop climate change is for me to talk with that guy who drives the lifted four-wheeler with a gun rack in the rear window instead of me avoiding eye contact with him. Can I learn to talk with him instead of at him? Can I learn to be curious and open about who he is and how he got to know what he knows? Can I treat that stranger as if they were my sister or brother, because in fact they are? You have heard and read this same message in so many places. It's echoed in all of the world's great religious texts, including this fine bottle of Dr. Bronner's soap. It says, all one. We are all one. This message is as old as the hills. Rumi, the 13th century Muslim poet, said it. Not Christian or Jew or Muslim, not Hindu, Buddhist, Sufi, or Zen, not any religion or cultural system. I am not from the East or the West, not out of the ocean or up from the ground, not natural or ethereal, not composed of elements at all. I do not exist. I am not an entity in this world or the next. I did not descend from Adam and Eve or any origin story. My place is the placeless, a trace of the traceless. Neither body or soul, I belong to the beloved, have seen the two worlds as one, and that one I call to and I know, first, last, outer, inner. Only that breath-breathing human being. Only that breath-breathing human being. When I see you, I see another human. Another breath-breathing human being. Nothing more, nothing less. A sister. A brother. Someone maybe a bit lost, trying to find their way back home. Just like me. Just like me. No different. No other. There's only we. When you are in a tribe, us and them comes with the territory. When you live in community, there is only we. Community is we. Community is the fabric which holds us together. We must, each one of us, learn to become seamstresses and stitch back together the small tears in our social fabric so the small rips don't become bigger ones. Don't become larger, weakening the fabric of our lives till it tears completely apart. We must become quilt makers and learn to sew together using many small stitches, many small acts of kindness. Sew all the different pieces of fabric and all the people that make up this diverse earthly existence together. All the wildly divergent fibers and textures and colors. I lost my spot. We have to meet the other and recognize that they are us. How very Zen, isn't it? And if Zen isn't really to your liking, maybe Dr. Bronner's soap is. They both help you to clean up your act. I'm not sure that it matters really which you use, but please use something. I don't know, does you make good soap or shampoo? Might. And if you're concerned and past experiences don't allow you to engage one-on-one with a MAGA hat-wearing other because it doesn't feel safe enough, or someone spouting tattoos and piercings that you don't have, or walk up to the guy who smells a bit and sleeps on the sidewalk in the corner of that downtown building. If that's a little too scary, consider joining an organized group which can offer you a controlled setting where you get the chance to and help others who seem radically different from, well, at least on the outside anyway, radically different from you, but exactly the same as you on the inside, if you get to know them. Become a pair of helping hands in a program that joins people together in ever larger communities. Food Pantry, Habitat for Humanity, Peace Action Network, Hope House, Family Promise, Repairers of the Breach, Second Harvest. There's a number of others listed on the bulletin board in the entryway back there. There are countless ways to come together and build community, and they don't really show up in the news feeds, not because they don't exist, but because they don't sell ad space like fear, uncertainty, and doubt does. Find something to help unite. Pick one that resonates with you. Vince Lombardi, that an iconic Green Bay Packers coach from the 60s, said it. Winning isn't everything, it's the only thing. Well, and I'd like to change that just a bit and say, if we hope to survive as a species, community isn't everything, it's the only thing. So I take refuge in this awakening community and our realization in the truth of the interconnection, interpenetration, and interdependency of all sentient and insentient beings everywhere. That is the third of the three refuges you take when you take formal vows to become a Zen Buddhist student. Zen Master Tori from the 17th century says, "And may we awaken and recognize this mind throughout the whole universe, so that we and all beings together may experience maturity in awakened mind wisdom." So in closing, I want to help you make a dietary change. Stop eating FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt, and instead start eating some good food. friendship, opportunity, organization, determination. When you talk to me, you will see, you and I, we are actually not so different on the inside. We both want to be happy. We both want to be loved. We both want to be well fed. And we both could benefit from just a little cleanup. What kind of soap do you use? Let me tell you about what the soap is I use. We, all of us, we want for the night to end and to live long enough to see the dawning of a new day. We want hope. So please, please go and make it so. Thank you. Do we have time for a little polylogue? I'm a huge fan of polylogue. So I suspect that I've been doing a little preaching to the choir here about reaching out and community. What I'd love to do is, if you're willing and brave, tell me what you're already doing. Right? My suspect is there are a lot of community builders and seamstresses here. What are you doing?
Well, I couldn't resist when you said quilting, because we have a threads group here, and we make quilts for babies, for the isolates in hospitals. We make quilts for teenagers, young people that are given to kids when they need something to cuddle up. We take them to the St. Joseph Hospital, and they give them to the moms who go home without their babies. So our quilts are all sewn by about 8, 9, 10 ladies, and it's a big community. We love working together, and we have, Marcia says we can't quit until we use every scrap in her house, and she keeps buying fabric. But anyway, yeah, so we've given probably 100 or more quilts to others through community, and we have a little label on the back where they're from. So I guess that counts.
That totally counts, and that will solve the plastic garbage patch in the Pacific Ocean. It'll take a little while to get from that quilt to removing all the plastic, but it is something that you can do. It is something that we can do. I really believe in this idea of the butterfly effect, right? One small thing in one place ultimately has large consequences in other places.
Hi, I'm Kim. I could really relate to a lot of the things that you were saying. I pretty much during the pandemic didn't do anything. Church, as I mentioned with my son, we were home a lot and digested way too much news. January 6th, I've been working out of my house for like a year, not seeing people, and I was just like, and I've told a couple of people here, I'm leaving the United States. I'm getting the hell out of here. And then I thought, my husband's from Turkey. This is, this whole thing is sort of happening globally too. It's not just here. So where are you going to go? And I don't know at what point, but over the last this summer, I decided I want to come back to church. I want to be with people that, believe as I do. And I think you're exactly right that we have to, especially, my son's in school, the school board meetings, we got to start trying to have a dialogue with these people rather than shouting each other down. And what's funny is a lot of my friends are sort of more on that side of people. So I'm with them all the time, and honestly, I haven't done very much because it's like you don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. You don't want to talk politics, but it's something I have to be more proactive at because I see, our country, our community. It's sad. It's next week is that multicultural fair, and I hope to do a little volunteering with that. And so it's the beginning of something.
Thank you. Keep going.
This is just a small thing. I'm Carrie. last night, my husband and I went off to the Black Arts Festival at Summerfest. And just to show up and to experience another part of our community that we don't often know much about. And, you know, if you were from the county of Milwaukee, like half of the population is Black or Latino or not white. And I don't know much about them. So off we went to get a flavor and to just show up. And I have to say, we were probably in the 1% tile, because there were like maybe 8 white people there, which it was really small. If people were just going there to have fun, they might have been disappointed because it was pretty small and not the highest quality like you would expect out of like German Fest or Summerfest or something like that, but they're just getting started. It's like the second one or something. And I really appreciated it because I wanted to get a sense more for the culture behind it and the, you know, the sort of, you know, if you watch sports, there's the color commentators, the color, the ambiance, the messages, you know, and it was really interesting in that sense to be there. And a couple of times people walked up to us and said, "What do you think of the fair?" They wanted to know what we specifically thought of it. So that was interesting too, that they're curious about that.
Yeah. So if I could, I would want to challenge you on one word that you mentioned there at the beginning. It's only a small thing. I found the poem that triggered. For want of a nail, the shoe was lost. Have you heard that one? For want of a shoe, the horse was lost. For want of a horse, the rider was lost. For want of a rider, the battle was lost. For want of a battle, the kingdom was lost. And all for want of a nail. It is only a small thing, but I'm really glad you're out there doing it because it does make a difference. Be patient.
Reading in our hymnal, I'm only one, but I'm still one. And I'm not going to try and memorize that. I already did that for today. Eric and I each, too close, lead a Buddhist group or a Zen Sangha each in our churches. But what I really want to tell you is you don't need to lead them. You need to show up at them with openness.
Yeah, my Sangha meets on Monday nights at Lake Country, 6:30. And we're online as well as in person. And we meet every Monday except for national holidays. And Patti, you have to help me with the scheduling for your community and when they meet. I don't remember.
First and third Wednesdays, 6:30. We are doing first Wednesdays online at this point, and we are doing third Wednesdays blended. We've been bopping around to different public libraries where wireless is. We are going to Muskego 10 days from now to the public library. We are considering this library here in this building where we have wireless as our winter home. So, thank you. I don't mind plugging either one. They're both wonderful. So, you satisfied with Polylog?
I think we're done.
Right.
Are we done? Any last
No,
words?
then we go to a hymn. And Alex, why don't you introduce hymn 1031?
Filled with loving kindness. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease. May May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be peaceful and at ease. May you be whole. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be peaceful and at ease. May we be whole.
So the closing words are two poems taken from Reduced to Joy by Mark Nepo. The first one is titled Breaking Trance. It's raining lightly, and the sheep are standing in the wet field, stopped by beads of water from the sky on their ears, their eyes, their mouths. They look like statues breaking their trance. Alive for the first time, they wonder, what is this magical place where the very air kisses you everywhere? Falling in love with the world is like this. The second is titled, What Sustains? The more I am hollowed by the fire, the more my ribs spread like the tree of life. The more I am washed by the tears of others, the more my heart rounds like an ocean shell. The more stories I tell of how one picks up another, the more my hands open like scoops for grain. To be what others drink, to be what others stand on, to reach what they love. We should be so lucky to be worn to this.
So the song's about how music can bring the community together. Early in the evening, just about supper time, over by the courthouse, starting to unwind. 4 kids on the corner, trying to bring you up. Willie picks a tune out and he blows it on the harp. Down on the corner, out in the street, Willie and the poor boys are playing, bring a nickel, tap your feet. Rooster hits the washboard, people just gotta smile. Binky thumps the gut bass and he solos for a while. Poor boy twangs the rhythm out on his Kalamazoo. Willie goes into a dance and doubles on kazoo. Down on the corner, out in the street, Willie and the poor boys are playing, bring a nickel, tap your feet. You don't need a penny just to hang around. If you've got a nickel, won't you lay your money down? Well, over corner, there's a happy noise. People come from all around to watch that magic boy. Come on now, down on the corner, out in the street, Willie and the poor boys are playing. Bring your nickel, tap your feet. Down on the corner, out in the street, Willie and the poor boys are playing. Bring your nickel and tap your feet.